powerful veteran judge openly insults the new chief judge of the federal court simply because he's black. But can Elias Maddox stand his ground and change a system steeped in racial bias? The truth will be revealed, but does he have what it takes to confront such fierce opposition? If you believe justice will prevail, like and share this story. Join us as we follow Elias Maddox's journey through one of the toughest battles for fairness in modern judicial history. Now, let's dive into this powerful and transformative tale. The federal courthouse, where power meets prejudice. The federal courthouse is a symbol of power, its towering columns standing as sentinels over decisions that shape human rights and racial equality in America. Its marble floors have echoed with footsteps of legal giants, and its chambers have borne witness to landmark rulings that have altered the course of history. But beneath that polished surface, there are whispers. Whispers of corruption. Whispers that the system, designed to deliver justice, too often fails those it's supposed to protect. Within those hallowed walls, injustice lingers like a stain no verdict can wash away. And though the air is thick with anticipation for change, that change remains elusive. That is, until Elias Maddox arrives at its threshold. Elias Maddox, a man of principle. Elias Maddox is the new chief judge of the federal court. A black man who has spent decades climbing a ladder slick with obstacles. His appointment is historic. But with the honor comes a weight that threatens to crush him. The court he's about to lead has a reputation. Stories of deep-rooted racial bias and corruption hang over it like a storm cloud. Before taking up his gavel, Elias makes a decision. He will observe, quietly. He will blend into the background, studying the system from within before he makes his move. Weeks pass. He attends trial after trial, sitting silently in the back rows. What he witnesses is both subtle and blatant. Bias in the form of dismissive gestures, harsher sentences for black defendants, and courtroom dynamics that tilt against the powerless. Despite the presence of voices advocating for justice, there's a heavy silence where fairness should be. Elias grows restless, but he knows he must wait for the right moment to act. The veteran judge, Conrad Blake. One name stands out as Elias gathers his observations, Judge Conrad Blake. A seasoned jurist whose rulings have shaped legal precedent for decades, Blake is an imposing figure in the courthouse. His reputation for conservative decisions and tough sentencing precedes him. But behind his legacy lies something darker. Blake's disdain for people of color is thinly veiled. His courtroom, a place that should be impartial, feels more like a battleground where black defendants are condemned before they even speak. In one case, a young black woman named Leona Daniels is on trial for stealing food from a grocery store. Her defense is simple. She stole to feed her younger siblings. But when she finishes speaking, Blake doesn't look at her. His face is stone. Without a shred of empathy, he sentences her to 5 years in prison. Elias clenches his fists beneath the desk. The injustice is suffocating, but he keeps his composure. He needs more evidence, more certainty. If he's to challenge Blake, he must be prepared. Digging deeper, Blake's distorted past. Through quiet conversations with court staff and defense attorneys, Elias pieces together Blake's past. Conrad Blake grew up in poverty, raised by a single mother in a crime-ridden neighborhood. He clawed his way out, rising to the top through sheer determination. But somewhere along the way, Blake's perspective hardened. His success made him believe anyone who failed to escape their circumstances simply didn't try hard enough. Now, Blake is a gatekeeper of tradition, a tradition that favors the powerful and punishes the marginalized. His rulings are consistent. Harsh sentences for black defendants, leniency for wealthy white ones. Elias uncovers case after case, reinforcing the same pattern. One ruling from 10 years prior stands out. Blake sentenced a young black man, Terrell Grant, to life in prison for possession of marijuana. In court, Blake justified the sentence by citing Terrell's troubled upbringing, calling him a product of an environment we must protect society from. Elias's stomach turns as he reads the transcript. This is not justice. This is systemic racism in a robe. The turning point, a trial for the ages. Weeks later, Elias sits in on a trial that could tip the scales. The defendant is a black man, Marcus Holloway, accused of assaulting a police officer during a protest. The defense argues Marcus was defending himself against police brutality. The courtroom is electric with tension. Activists sit in the gallery, and the media waits outside. Judge Blake presides. The first witness, an organizer named Naomi Ellis, takes the stand. She speaks with calm conviction about what she saw. Peaceful protesters beaten, tear gas fired without provocation. But Blake interrupts her testimony, questioning her credibility and dismissing her experiences. "What makes you an expert in civil rights, Miss Ellis?" Blake sneers. "You're just an organizer." Elias's jaw tightens. Naomi holds her ground, but it's clear Blake has no intention of listening. As the trial unfolds, Blake continues to undermine the defense, cutting off testimonies and casting doubt on witnesses' motives. The entire proceeding is a performance, one that upholds a broken system. Elias's patience snaps. Confrontation in the courtroom. Elias stands, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. The room falls silent. "Your Honor," Elias says, his voice calm but resolute. "With all due respect, I must ask you to reconsider how you are handling this trial." Blake barely glances up. "Who are you to interrupt my court?" he demands. "Another activist?" "Sit down." Elias takes a step forward. "I'm Elias Maddox, Chief Judge of this court." Gasps ripple through the room. Blake's pen drops from his hand. Elias continues. "This trial is a travesty of justice. You are not offering this defendant a fair hearing." Blake's expression darkens. "I don't take lectures from men like you." Then he says it. A slur. A word soaked in hatred and centuries of oppression. The courtroom freezes. Elias stands motionless for a beat, the weight of history pressing down on him. But then he steps forward, his voice rising. "You've crossed the line, Judge Blake. You don't get to reduce me, or anyone else, to that." Reclaiming power. Elias's declaration reverberates through the chamber. "I will not allow this behavior to continue. Not in my court. Not in this system." The room erupts in whispers. Blake, visibly shaken, tries to regain control. But the tide has turned. Elias is no longer a silent observer. He is leading a revolution. And this courtroom is ground zero. The investigation. Elias immediately orders a full investigation into Blake's conduct. His team reviews every ruling, every sentence, every decision. The findings are damning. Blake's career is a blueprint for systemic discrimination. As the investigation deepens, support for Elias swells. Judges, attorneys, and even former allies of Blake come forward with their own stories of misconduct. The media picks up the story. Protests gather outside the courthouse. The people demand accountability. Blake's web of protection unravels, and Elias stands at the center, unwavering. A reckoning long overdue. After weeks of relentless investigation, Elias's team presents irrefutable evidence of Blake's corruption and racial bias. The Judicial Council moves swiftly. Blake is dismissed from his post. In a nationally televised address, Elias speaks directly to the people. Justice isn't about maintaining power. It's about protecting the rights of every individual, regardless of race, background, or status. Today marks a new beginning. The ripple effect. Blake's removal is just the start. Elias spearheads sweeping reforms. Anti-bias training for judges, stricter oversight committees, and transparent sentencing reviews. The court begins to rebuild its reputation, not as a fortress of tradition, but as a beacon of fairness. Communities long disenfranchised find hope in Elias's leadership. They come forward, demanding reforms not only in the courtroom, but in policing, housing, and education. Elias's name becomes synonymous with justice, not because he sought power, but because he stood for something greater, a legacy of change. In the end, Elias Maddox stands tall in his courtroom, no longer the lone observer in the back row, but the leader who changed the course of justice in America. The fight isn't over. But for the first time in generations, the people believe that justice is possible. And it's all because one man chose to stand. Final thoughts. If you found Elias's story meaningful, don't forget to like and share it with others who believe in the power of justice. Your support helps us continue bringing real stories to life. And if you want to hear more powerful tales like this one, be sure to subscribe to our channel. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Together, we can make justice more than just a word.